Welcome guys to another episode of Boom Arena. Today we're gonna be covering the decks of the recent top 10 players finishes, and today we're gonna be covering the steel bait of 4-inch shard. It's gonna be a steel bait that you probably see a lot on ladder with two major changes, first of which is flying bomb instead of a missile, which is kinda huge in my opinion. It changes many dynamics of the matchup, and another thing is gonna be bone blasters instead of the ice tiny, so your offense will be significantly better at the cost of defense. And to supplement that, I think the cannon will be the building of choice. I'm gonna talk about the choice of building in the next segment. Right now let's jump to some gameplay and show how this deck is being played. So we're gonna obviously be trying to get as much offense as possible, and that's pretty much the purpose of this variation. So you won't be having that strong of a defense, so your best defense will be in fact the offense. Like it. Okay, I'm gonna actually take this blast in the face that was suboptimal, if I might say at least. Obviously he's gonna be playing a steel bait as well, and even he's gonna be playing cyclone, so it's gonna be a very interesting matchup. Obviously I should be accounting that in advance. Unfortunate for him, and I mean unfortunate for me that I didn't, but I'm gonna win the war of bomb girls. That's the work I was looking for, and I'm gonna just create more initiative. I'm gonna force a response. He's gonna defend that, so that's gonna be very good for him, and I think that's a good moment to talk about the changes in the deck from the traditional steel bait. So this deck obviously should be played very similarly to steel bait, with an obvious drawback that you're gonna be playing way more aggressively. Like you've seen, I don't save the rolling steel on my opponent's phone keg. I'm just playing rolling steel whenever I'm gonna get value, because if I'm getting value, he's gonna be having less mana worth on the boards, and I'm gonna be able to create more initiative. It looks like he's gonna be giving up very early, and yeah, I'm gonna use this time to talk about not today's sponsor, don't worry, not yet, about some changes, and first of which is gonna be the cannon change instead of phone hut. So the phone hut is known as a way more defensive option than a cannon, because a cannon is just a cheap budget option that you usually see when your opponent is kinda offensive, but it needs a building to not absolutely collapse, and for that reason many people just put a cannon, and that's pretty much the choice in this deck. You don't rely on perfect defense every time. You have these bone blasters to potentially come back in some scenarios. I'm gonna actually have to defend with my phone keg. It was a very good play out of him, but right now he's gonna have nothing for these bone blasters. That's the magic of this deck. You pretty much can spam at 0 and usually you will find a value. The problem is if your opponent is skillful enough and will just stall the game to the stalemate, because this deck is not good in stalemate positions. It usually wants to trade at the bridge. Like you've seen, I've just played a phone horde, which was like -3 for me, and right now I have to defend for 6, his 7 mana push, which obviously is a very good trade-off for him, and usually don't want to get to these scenarios because your deck will just trade wars. I'm gonna now play phone horde to kill this piercing archer. Another time where you kinda want to attack but you're forced to defense, you're just trading wars. He's gonna play ghost on this bomb girl and I'm fine. Okay, he's gonna play devils, which is obviously an option. And another thing, you're not gonna be having the ice tiny, so devils usually will be some nuisance once they appear, because your bomb girl not always will be locked on them, and also your bomb girl will be the target for opponent's spells, so you'll have to be very careful about that. Like I've said, this deck is not brilliant defensively, so you will have to compensate with the very good offense, which I'm trying to display right now. I'm gonna play a Font Cake right here, get some damage. I'm gonna play a Bomb Girl right now to get some very cheeky splash, and I will, so that's very fine. I'm gonna play some Cannon to protect my cards, and yeah, I think this Piercing Archer will get to live, which is, well, like I've said, once again, suboptimal. Right now he's slow playing, which is very good thing for him to do, because if I don't have a way to create the initiative, his deck will just score better than mine, and that's just the design of these decks. I have no problem with that, only thing, I just have to avoid these scenarios. So, right, like you've seen right here, I kinda don't want to make these huge defenses, because I don't have a cost-efficient way to play them. I'm gonna actually play a Flying Bomb here, and that's gonna lock the win. So, like you've seen, it's basically a normal steel bait, but you just want to attack more instead of defending. And the last change in this deck that I'm gonna try to talk about is gonna be, okay, that was very aggressive. The last change that I'm gonna try to talk about is gonna be a change up of the spells. So we won't be playing Missile in this deck, we're gonna be playing with the Flying Bomb. And the reason for that is that Flying Bomb is more of a versatile spell that you can use both for offense and defense, and Missile is pretty associated with a pure offense, usually regarded as a spell cycle spell, which is, that was very fortunate that my both Bone Blasters will connect. It doesn't always happen, but I got it this time. So I was talking about the Flying Bomb. So Flying Bomb can be very well used to both offense and defense, and that's very good thing if you want to have the very flexible deck like this one. So this deck isn't relying purely on defending everything and then spell cycling, and that's why the spell can be theoretically weaker. Obviously, it's not weaker because it allows you to play more offense. Okay, that's gonna suck. I'm gonna have to get to my... Okay, this fifth will dash, which is very fortunate. I'm gonna right now have to play some tricks to stabilize, like this. It was very tough call, but we managed to persevere. And another thing is, Flying Bomb is just more versatile. Like with Missile, you usually want to play it against a tower, and in some scenarios against a very hard to remove troop, and Flying Bomb, it just makes the life easier by the fact that it naturally makes your troops to control the map easier. So like you've seen, if I were to have Missile in this scenario, I would have to spend some more mana against this Piercing Archer, and it's usually not that good of a call to spend too much mana to eliminate your opponent's support card. I'm gonna try to defend right here. This Swordman will land soon, right there. And yeah, I think that's the major reason why the Flying Bomb is used instead of Missile, just because it's not a defensive deck, but rather it's the deck that wants to just keep the presence on the map. And if you want to keep the presence on the map like this deck, you want to be aggressive and attack over and over again, usually Flying Bomb will be better than Missile, because Missile is the card that likes the close position, where neither player can break through. You just throw it and hope that your opponent will suicide into your defenses. So that's gonna be my final reasoning why I actually like the switch of the Flying Bomb instead of Missile in this deck. Obviously there are some more drawbacks, but that's gonna be generally it. And that's gonna be a wrap up around this deck. I hope you guys enjoyed this steelbait analysis. Obviously there are arguments that missile will be better here. I would even argue that throwing bullets won't be a bad call, since this deck wants to be very aggressive. You may want to play with two small spells that will absolutely remove any way of spell cycling your opponent, but at the same time it's gonna be allowing you to play way more aggressively, removing some swarms, some key cards like enemy's bomb girl easier, and some many other things. Like obviously it's good against devils, and your real response against devils in this deck is only bomb girl, and if your bomb girl dies, you are forced to play spell, like which I've said in previous videos, which is never a good sign of your position. So I think that's gonna be a good wrap up of this deck today. Shout out to InChart for playing this deck and finishing number 9 on ladder, and I'm gonna see you guys in the next episode of the deck reviews. Make sure to subscribe obviously to see that one, and I'm gonna see you in the next episode of Boom Arena.